Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the Sikh History Series podcast, episode number 5, The Decapitation of Massa Rangar. During the times of the wicked evil tyrant Zakariya Khan, the Guru's Khalsa lived and died by the sword. The Khalsa was forever surrounded by enemies and engaged in guerrilla warfare. With enemies on all sides, day and night, they were forever at war, fighting for survival, fighting to be free. These were the most tried and tested times for the Khalsa Panth warriors. To join the Khalsa was to invite death over for lunch, and to serve or support the Khalsa was the same. Zakariya Khan had made the land of Punjab inhospitable for the Singhs. He offered handsome rewards for the decapitated heads of each and every Singh, young or old. The Singhs could no longer roam freely as they once did. There was a price to pay on every Singh's head, resulting in many Singhs taking refuge in jungles and forests, or hiding up in the mountainous areas, or leaving Punjab altogether. There were shoot-on-sight orders issued across the land for whomever happens to spot a Singh. Zakariya left no stone unturned in seeking to destroy the Sikh and the Khalsa warriors. Any village which was once filled with Singhs was raided, and men, women and children were all massacred, butchered to death and killed. Whole villages were burnt to the ground. The streets and gullies of Punjab ran red with blood. The fanatical Zakariya Khan gathered all the governors of Punjab, the bloody butchers who aided and encouraged the massacre of Sikhs, especially the Singhs warriors, and he told them, anyone who helps the Singhs will suffer the most terrible of fates. They will suffer and suffer and then suffer some more. To help the Singhs is to sign your own death warrant. Anyone who helps the Singhs hide or evade capture, or even fails to provide information on a Singh in their area, will also face the death penalty. Those who give shelter to Singhs will lose their lives. Those who withhold information about the Singhs will lose their lives. Anyone who enters into matrimony with Singhs will lose their lives. Anyone who gives grain to the Singhs will be converted into Islam for doing so. Due to these protocols, ordinary villagers had become enemies of the Singhs. Some due to the fear that a passing Singh by a village could bring death. This was because of the fear of the wrath of the evil Mughals, who would kill and convert whole villages for failing to report or capture that Singh. Some became enemies of the Singhs, consumed by greed for rewards and land for the head of a murdered, dead Singh. During these times, to spot a Singh in Punjab was rare. Everyone was hunting the Singhs, greedy for a reward of a slain Singh's head. People left their day jobs to hunt Singhs full time. Headhunters from across the land came to Punjab to make their fortune. The Singhs in return would kill and jatkar these mercenaries, headhunters and villagers turned hunters of the Singhs if they came across them. The hunters would become the hunted upon coming across the Khalsa Nihang warriors. Singhs were massively outnumbered during these times, and these times and circumstances had made them much hated in their own lands and homes. Things were in such a bad state that, taken over by greed, some moralless, greedy, sick, sadistic people would kill their own daughters, chopping off their heads and scraping, disfiguring their faces, presenting them as young Singhs whom were yet to grow a beard in order to get the inam, the reward for killing a Singh. Such was the evil in Punjab at this time. Zakariya Khan often boasted that he had eradicated the Singhs from the face of the earth, that through his evil campaigns no Gaisdari was allowed to live. His orders were direct: kill anyone who kept a long gaze, be it a child or an elderly person. They were to be butchered to death and the head was to be hacked off. As a result, many Singhs fled Punjab for the safety of the jungles and forests of Bikaner. Jathedar Sham Singh, Jathedar Jassa Singh, Jathedar Bodh Singh and many other great Khalsa warriors resided in the forests and jungles of Bikaner. Jathedar Mehtab Singh Mira Kotia, the great Sikh warrior who lived with his head on the palm of his hand ready to serve the Khalsa Panth, also left Punjab for the Bikaner and Rajasthan area. There he would go between the areas of Jaipur, Jodhpur, Ganganagar, and in these areas they would pass this difficult time. Bhai Ratan Singh Ji Pangu writes that for some time my grandfather Bhai Mehtab Singh in the city of Jaipur in the state of Rajasthan, after meeting with the state chief, secured some employment or funding, all of which was used to support the Jujaru Ladakh Khalsa Singhs who were hiding in the jungles and forests at this time. One day, a Singh warrior by the name of Bulaka Singh came and he met Mehtab Singh while he was hiding out in the jungles with the rest of the Khalsa Panth warriors. Mehtab Singh asked him, "Tell me, how are things in Punjab, our homeland? Whereabouts are the Mughal encampments? Where do their armies reside? And tell me, how are the Singhs who remain in Punjab? And how are our Guru Asthans?" Bulaka Singh, with great anguish and tears in his eyes, replied, "Don't even ask. The suffering caused by the Turks and Mughals is immense. These times are unprecedented. Never has such a tough time been faced by our Panth. Never have times been as dreadful as they are now. To utter what is happening and tell you my mouth pains, and I feel great pain duck in my heart. To hear about the dire situation causes ears to bleed, the pain is that much. What I am about to tell you rips my chest and heart apart, and my heart aches. I find it so hard to speak, to tell you, but at the same time I cannot keep it bottled inside either." Sachkhand, Sri Darbar Sahib, our most beloved Gurudwara, the sacred Darbar of Guru Ram Das Ji, has been taken over by the Mughals. Now, prostitutes dance where the Guru's Kirtan was sang. The holy Darbar has turned into the living quarters of a filthy Mughal leader named Massa Rangar. There, him and his generals smoke hookah, drink gallons of sharab, alcohol, eat their disgusting halal meat, spit out their dirty pan on the floor, and do many other unspeakable, disgusting things. What can I tell you? This Chaudhary Massa Rangar is a tyrant warlord and has a super inflated ego. He thinks he is untouchable. This harami Massa Rangar does these sacrilegious, disrespectful acts and laughs. Upon hearing this, Jathedar Mehtab Singh becomes infuriated. He reacts as if stung by a scorpion, unable to sit or stand still, withering in pain. Mehtab Singh reacts, "Are all the Singhs in Punjab dead? What happened to them? Have none of them gone and chopped his head off for this? Have none of them caved this tyrant Kutta's head in? Has the Khalsa's great bravery disappeared? Have the Singhs lost their warrior fighting spirit? What's happened to them? What happened to you?" Listening to this, Bulaka Singh responds, "Mehtab Singh, have you not left your homelands? You're saying this to them, but you yourself have fled from Punjab. Where is your fighting spirit? Where is your great bravery? What happens and what's happening to them is happened to you. Everyone is just trying to survive. If they are scared, then so are you. They hide in Punjab and you hide out here. The fear of death is real. What can you say to others? First look at your own heart. You fled Punjab to save your life. Those hiding in Punjab and you are the same. Scared of death, everyone has fled Punjab, including me. These times are unprecedented. The toughest times ever faced are before us. There are no Singhs left in the area of Punjab, they say. No one speaks of the name Singh. The Singh name has become a joke. People talk and they say the Khalsa used to live here and ride around on horseback like great kings. But where are they now? Nawab Zakaria Khan has eliminated the Khalsa Panth from the face of the earth. People are starting to forget who we are. They say the Singhs who were waging warfare day and night, who stood up to the tyrannical Mughal government, the Singhs who rose early in the morning and sang the praises of their Guru, the Singhs who on the daily confronted the Mughals and Turks, fighting them and killing them in the battlefield, those Singhs of high character, those Singhs who would shout Akal, Akal wherever they went, they are finished, they've all been killed. Zakaria has killed them all. And now, only those like us remain, those who hide or left Punjab in order to survive. These statements again hit Jathedar Mehtab Singh like the sting of a poisonous scorpion. The pain of these statements was too much. He could not take it. He felt great pain and anguish in his heart. The mood changes. Bhai Mehtab Singh will act. The brave warrior Bhai Sukha Singh, seeing this, and steps to Jathedar Mehtab Singh and says, I am with you. Let's go back to Punjab and put a stop to this beadabi. Let's see who this Massa Rangar is, and let's go and see what he is made of, what his insides look like. Both warriors pledged to go back to the Mughal occupied lands, to go into the lion's den and to chop off the head of Massa Rangar for his sacrilegious acts. They stand humbly before the Khalsa Panth, touching the feet of the respected Khalsa warriors, their elders, and ask for permission, humbly to go on this mission impossible. Mehtab Singh says, if Guru Sahib does kirpa, we would chop off Massa Rangar's head and bring it back and place it before your feet. If we are killed on this mission, then our lives and deaths have been worthwhile. But saying that we will be successful in our mission, we will go and kill him and bring back his head on a spear. We fear not death nor fighting with the Turks. Those who fear death and fighting with the Mughals, their parents are shamed for even giving birth and raising such beings. When you have drank the Amrit, made with the deadly double-edged sword, then how can one fear death? From the day we drank from the immortal Bata of death, of Amrit, our heads and lives have been on the palms of our hands, and we have been ever ready to die, ever ready to defend. Mehtab Singh says, touching the feet of the Khalsa's 5 Singhs, we leave for our mission. Only once I have killed Massa Rangar, I will come back and touch your blessed feet again. Until then, I will not return nor come back. They do ardas and set off for Punjab without wasting any time. The warriors ride at pace en route to Sri Darbar Sahib. Nihang Gyani Sher Singh, in his katha of this great mission, adds and explains that the 2 warriors passed through Damdama Sahib on their way to Darbar Sahib to see Baba Deep Singh Ji. They tell Babaji of their daring mission. Now this section of the Sakhi does not appear in Bhai Ratan Singh Ji Pangu's Panth Prakash, but not every detail is included, as multiple times Bhai Ratan Singh Ji writes in Panth Prakash, I have not written nor given full details, as I fear if I do, this Grantha and writing will become too big and voluminous, so I only write a brief account of these episodes of the Khalsa. Much of our history has been preserved and passed on through the Khalsa oral tradition, through Katha, and by telling these stories and Sakya to the younger generations. Those who have stayed in the Nahang Dal's encampments know, in the evenings, sitting around campfires, the elder Singhs often tell Sakya and stories of their childhood and their Karname and the Karname of their elders. Thus, in this way, oral history of the Khalsa is passed on. At this point, The elders in the Panth are discussing or having a discussion regarding Sri Guru Dasam Granth Sahib Ji. They are deciding whether to separate the Bani into smaller Granths or Pothiyan, or if they should keep the whole of Sri Guru Dasam Granth Sahib Ji as one. There was 0% shakka or any doubt in any of the Bani. There was no doubt in the Gurbani. The discussion was simply if the different Bani topics should be separated or kept together. The different Bani topics being the Ustat of Vikal, praise of the Almighty, Jangi Jodh Bani, warrior spirited Bani to aid fighting in battle, or the Charitar, the Bani which guides and protects us in daily living from treachery and the trickery of the world. The elder warriors asked the young warriors for their advice. Mehtab Singh and Bhai Sukha Singh Ji respond, "Who are we to even give our thoughts on such a topic? We are nobodies. Babaji, you are our respected elder. We follow your every order. We are nothing compared to you. We are nothing. We are humble. We are nobody. Our only advice is this: please, Babaji, do ardas before the Sadguru for our mission. And if we are successful and bring the head of Massa Rangar and present it before the Khalsa Panth, then our only ray is this: keep the Swaroop of Sri Guru Dasam Granth Sahib Ji as one. However, if we fail and are killed, then separate the Granth into sections, as our bodies will be separated when we die." Baba Deep Singh Ji does ardas for these two great warriors, and they set off on their daring mission. As the Singhs get close to Sri Amritsar Sahib, the warriors slow down. They know they cannot roam freely without a disguise, so they devise a plan. They plan to disguise themselves as tax collectors. To enter the Amritsar district without a disguise would put their whole mission in jeopardy. Jathedar Singh Sahib Baba Santa Singh Ji of Buddha Dal, whom brought this great Granth back to the limelight and back to the forefront of Sikhi, in his translation and explanation of the original text, writes the two warriors took a sack and filled it with tikriya, rupee-sized bits of broken pot, which filled out the sacks and sounded like money as they jingled in the sacks, and as the warriors rode their horses in this way, sounded like money, and in disguise the warriors complete their disguise and cunning plan. In the hot summer month and the midday sun, hot winds are blowing, causing somewhat sandstorms. The hot wind is blowing the hot sand up in the air, causing poor visibility at some points. Because of the hot sand being blown up in the air, the warriors are able to tie up and cover their faces and cover their identity, acting as a shield from the hot sand being blown in the wind without causing too much suspicion. In the heat of the Indian summer, sometimes there would be sudden monsoon rainfalls, and due to this adverse weather, many of the Mughal soldiers and warrior guards of Massa Rangar took shelter indoors or passing this time relaxing or lying down in their quarters. Many are sleeping, others are relaxing and slowly getting drunk. The warriors use this to their advantage and go forth with their plan without hesitation and without fear. Massa Rangar at this point is residing inside Sri Darbar Sahib. There he was slowly passing the day, drinking and smoking while watching dancing girls dance to musical rags played on the harmonium and the mridang drum. Many of the Moguls inside are high and intoxicated, sitting with their backs leaning on the walls of Sri Harmandir Sahib, watching the Kanjriya, dirty dancing girls. Bhai Ratan Singh Ji writes, at this time, Sarang Rag and then Malar Rag are being played as the two warriors enter close to Sri Darbar Sahib. The warriors arrive near the Darshan Diori, the blessed doors leading to the walkway Prakarma to Sri Darbar Sahib. There they tie their horses to the Lachi Beri, the tree on the right hand side of the Darshani Diori. And if you go to Sri Darbar Sahib today, there's a sign which informs you that this is the very tree where warrior Bhai Sukha Singh Ji and Jathedar Mehtab Singh Ji tied their horses. They hide their jungi spears by this tree. Their talwars were hidden beforehand under their clothing, wearing long kurta clothing in the style of the Mughals. Their weapons, by Mehtab Singh Ji carrying a Sirohi sword, remain undetected. Their turbans also tied in the Mughal manner. Looking like tax collectors, they step forward. On reaching the first entrance door, a guard asks them, "Oh, where have you guys come from?" "We have come from Patti," replied the warriors. "We have come to drop off the last few months' taxes to Massa Sahib." The warriors each held a fixed sack, which were tied closed, containing the broken clay pots, which sounded like coins as they jingled when the warriors walked, clanging together. The impression was that these sacks were filled with the money, the taxes, which had been collected. The guard allows them passage, asking for a sum or a fee or a bribe from these disguised Singh warriors, whom he fully believes to be tax collectors. "Let us sort Massa out, and on the way back we will get you also," the Singhs told him. Blinded by greed, the guard allowed passage into Sri Darbar Sahib, where the Guru's warriors walked alongside the walkway into Sri Darbar Sahib. They bowed their heads to the Sri Darbar Sahib, the sacred Darbar of Guru Ram Das. There they saw the evil tyrant Massa Rangar sitting on his manja, alcohol and hookah to hand, as he was caught in a trance watching the young prostitute dancing girls. I can only imagine the sight and how it would have infuriated the Khalsa Singhs. Little did Massa Rangar know that death was standing right before him. Massa turned to them and asks, "Who are you?" Mehtab Singh answers, "We are Lambardars, the tax collectors from Patti." And Massa, trapped in greed, asks, "How much have you brought?" Mehtab Singh throws down the sack and it lands just under the manji where he's sitting, the seat where Paapi Massa Rangar is sitting, and says, "Have a look for yourself." The drunk Massa Rangar leans down. As he bends forward to grab the sack, Bhai Mehtab Singh, without hesitation, without prompt, pulls out his razor-sharp Sirohi sword and in one sweeping motion, Chatkars chops off the head of the evil Paapi Massa Rangar. Head and body are separate. The way a kaddu, a pumpkin, is plucked from its root, the same way Massa Rangar's head was hacked off in one swift blow, a Chatkavar, a strike that kills with one blow. As Mehtab Singh does this, Bhai Sukha Singh Ji snatches the multiple thick gold chains hanging from the decapitated corpse of Massa Rangar before it even falls to the ground. Bhai Ratan Singh Ji writes, Massa Rangar's body wriggles around on the floor like a fish out of water. The warriors and Sukha Singh then decapitate and kill all the other people in the room, the other generals, the other guards inside, and even the musicians are killed. Only one or two escape, who dive into the Sarovar out of fear, scared for their lives. They took the head of Paapi Massa Rangar with them as the warriors made their swift exit. The guard at the front, seeing the warriors leaving the sacred Darbar with the decapitated head of Massa Rangar, frees. The Singhs call out to him, "We have something for you also." The coward guard runs, failing to stop or to look back at the brave Khalsa warriors. The Singhs, putting the decapitated head of Massa Rangar on a spear, then mount their horses and ride off towards the jungles, the hero warriors letting off battle cries as they gallop away. The Mughal army are caught totally off guard, pants down. Never did they imagine the Singh warriors could dare to enter their stronghold where the might of all their armies was camped and kill their general and their leader in broad daylight, without fear and without hesitation. Never did they imagine the Khalsa to be so brave or daring. It took the Mughals a long time to take up chase. One, because they were scared. Two, because they were all in rest. None of them had their arms or armour on. 3, they had to saddle their horses, and for it took them some time to even figure out what had happened. The warrior Singhs made their escape and were successful on their daring mission. They had Chatkared Massa Rangar for his sacrilegious acts. They had walked into the Mughal stronghold and proven the Khalsa Panth Singhs to be the most daring, fearless and cunning of warriors. The Mughal warrior warlords could now not feel safe even when surrounded by large numbers of their own forces in their own forts or encampments. They would now live in fear and extreme anxiety, not knowing when the Bajrangi Cobra Singhs, the warriors of Guru Gobind Singh, would strike again. The Singhs eventually returned to the Khalsa Panth, presenting the head of the tyrant warlord Massa Rangar before the feet of the Guru Khalsa. The Singhs were successful in their mission. The Saroop of Sri Guru Dasam Granth Sahib Ji would stay as one. The reputation of the Singhs would only grow. The Panth was pleased with their warriors. The great Guru had done Kirpa and showered their blessings on these two. This is the truth of how Bhai Sukha Singh and how Bhai Mehtab Singh have preserved the honour of Sikhi, and how they brought justice to the evil Massa Rangar who dared to disrespect Sri Darbar Sahib. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.